we have Sanchari today. She is a talent acquisition specialist. She was VP in the previous organizations. She have worked with multiple startups, product-based companies, FANG, and she has a vast experience. We are glad, Sanchari, that you are over here. Like, would you mind talking about your career and your journey till now?
Thank you so much, Chirag. I think that was, I mean, I'm just very grateful for the introduction. Um, yes, I have worked, as a VP HR in my previous companies. I have, worked with a couple of companies. I would not say great, but yes, I had slight experience in this field. So to an extent, I do have knowledge. So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me here.
Most of the folks who start their journey, especially after the college, they get into some companies where they have huge notice period, and that become a challenging for them in order to switch their career. Or even I have seen like multiple experienced folks get into such trap. Some of the time I will say trap because sometimes it becomes a trap because if you don't go through the class. So today is interesting topic that we are going to discuss how to handle this 90 days notice period. So the first thing from the audience is like how challenging is it to change your job with your current employer with like 90 days notice period? Like how can we do that?
Um, uh, Honestly, see, higher notice period can be challenging sometimes, to find a new job unless we act strategically because we know the industry, right? At least right now, the industry is so competitive that, where the candidate, sometimes, have couple of offers. Similarly, I think even the employers also cannot wait. They do not wait for higher notice period. I mean, they do. Both of them do have their own reasons, right? Which is completely fine. But sometimes what happens, the, employers actually prefer candidates, even if they have a candidate with a higher notice period, but with good experience and a very 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 good candidate. They just prefer somebody with a lesser notice period and immediate. So the reasons are like they work on client projects. There are a few reasons they work on client projects. If you talk about startups, they work on a very very shorter, stricter deadlines, right? They do not have that. They cannot afford actually much more time on training. So there are sort of few reasons why they do that. And which and again there are also instances when again I would not blame, but yeah, I mean this has happened that in the on the joining day, the candidates end up taking another offer. So that's very normal that this company, they say company A, they are just they have to start from square one. So these are a couple of the reasons why companies avoid high notice periods unless the skill is niche or your notice period is negotiable. So in that case, I would say either we have to develop skills which are niche in the market, or target specific companies, which is something in your domain. Like for example, a person is in a certain domain, right? Domain A. You will have companies which is in the similar domain, competitors. They are looking for skills exactly what you have, right? Many a times we apply for companies which is not looking for us. So we just ignore that. So what we need to do is we have to act strategically and apply for only those companies who are looking for us.
Got it. Cool. So you talked about something very interesting is negotiation. So can we
Right.
negotiate with our current employer? Like if I'm in a company where I have 90 days notice period and the other
Right.
company from where I'm having the offer letter, they are expecting me to join somewhere soon. Like they, as you said, like companies sometimes cannot wait for 90 days because of n number of reason. Either that is client-based project or something. Basically there can be challenges with a startup. They want their product to be delivered as soon as possible, right? So waiting for 90 days and then getting to know, oh dude, that person didn't turn up, right, may not work for most of the companies. So how about negotiating with the current company? Like how that can work?
Yes, negotiation can certainly be done, but here, the company and your HR, the company where you work, plays a very important role, as well as your reporting manager.
Okay.
Okay, so one thing that I would always advise everyone is to have a very good rapport with your manager, because I think that is how you can actually stay in a company. One. Second, even if you're leaving, right? So never ever burn the bridges, right? So never ever, always try to keep a very good rapport so that even when you're leaving, even
Mhm.
if after you leave, you have a way to come back, right? And secondly, your manager helps a lot. This person plays a very important role in your notice period negotiation. Okay,
Mhm.
so this is one point. Second, that I would always say is, whenever you're signing an offer letter, you should always be very, I would say, careful, and should always check the termination clause. So
Mhm.
the termination clause, sometimes company do mention that, hey, 90 days notice period, either the candidate has to serve the notice period, or you can buy out the notice period,
Mhm.
right, in the lieu of salary, like the
Mhm.
term. So these two things, if they are mentioned, right, so you can
Mhm.
actually go to your HR and tell that, hey, this is, I'm looking, I'm just going to join another company, and I want to resign, and then I would like to negotiate my notice period. So if it is there in the offer letter, it
Mhm.
helps, right, to build your, I would say, case in a better way. I
Got
mean,
it.
before you go to your HR. So that is one thing.
Mhm.
And I think about the wrap up, already told you, right? And there are also companies where they negotiate, they adjust your notice period with your earned leaves.
Mhm.
So that is another 3 points,
Mhm.
right? So if you do not have any earned leaves at all, if you have plans to leave a company, please
Mhm.
make sure you have at least 5 to 10 earned leaves in your account. I know it's sometimes we have important stuff, right? You'll be saying that, hey, if I don't take earned leaves, I mean, it is fine, right? If you do not take the leaves, you will get what do you call it? You can encash it, right?
Correct.
Either you can encash it or you can utilize it in negotiating the notice period. So yeah, these are a couple of things that you can try. But the one point which I've already mentioned is having a good rapport with the manager is very important. If that is not there, all these other points can actually not work.
Yeah, I think few points that you have told is awesome. Like first, I think the thing which you have told, I have personally experienced in past, your manager is a key man. If your manager is okay and is going to support you, that becomes a very easy case for you to actually switch the company with a shorter notice
True.
period as well, right? And the second, as you said, like end of the day, someone believes or not, someone want you to leave or not, if that is written in your clause, which is in your offer letter, no one can stop you, right? So
Correct.
that is
Correct.
the second biggest case. And definitely, as you said, if you have something as an earned leave already, use that, dude. Like no one can stop you. Like just
Right.
utilize that in order to leave. And that's the best, I think, that you can leverage. One thing you talked about in between is a buyback, right? Can you
Right.
talk a bit more about the buyback? Like how does that happen? And like to whom we can request with?
Definitely. So, okay, so this buyback is also an option which is provided by employers, right? So again, this is it normally it is mentioned in your offer letter,
Mhm.
right? But one thing that we have to keep in mind is an employer is not forced to agree to this point. Okay,
Okay.
so when we are talking to this, we also have to know that, hey, we cannot ask the employee that, hey, I want to do it, so you have to do it, right? So
Mhm.
uh, it is something we have to, in this case, we have to take the employer in confidence. So when
Mhm.
I say employer, a manager for you, a
Mhm.
manager in HR actually represents the company, right? So
Correct.
you have to take them in the confidence,
Mhm.
and you have to make sure that they agree to it, right?
Mhm.
And so yeah, that is one point.
Mhm.
So in case of buyout, as I've mentioned, earned leaves, that
Mhm.
is also one way. And remaining, so sometimes what happens, I'll tell you, usually what happens, either you can buy out, right? So while you're buying out, you can adjust the amount, partly a part amount, with the earned leaves, and remaining, either your new employer pays it
Mhm.
directly, or you pay it and get the reimbursement,
From the new
right?
employer where you are going to join.
From the new employer.
Got
Yes,
it.
yes. But sometimes what happens, like in most of the cases, usually the employee pays it and then they get the reimbursement. I'm talking about startups. Since I've worked with startups, usually
Uh-huh.
startup follows this.
Uh-huh.
In companies which are bigger companies,
Mhm.
they have a provision where they directly deal with the HR of the another company,
Got it.
right? So however, what I have noticed is, usually companies doesn't want to get involved in this because it's a very confusing process, right? So they always say that, hey, you pay the amount, we will bear the charges, and we will bear the amount, right? Expenses.
Right.
Also, there are cases where I've seen. I have seen in my circle, again in not our domain. That was a different domain, not in IT. So there, what they do is there the employee pays it, and
Mhm.
sometimes they end up not getting the amount. So that is also sometimes that's there, right?
I think
Uh,
what you're saying, like always
uh,
taking written that we are going to pay a buyback is something
right.
always better.
Right. So you should
Great.
always, from both the ends, you have to
Mhm.
make sure that you have a documented something, right? Email or
Correct, correct.
confirmation that,
Correct.
hey, once you do it, we will be. So sometimes the offer that you receive from your new employer, they mention it that it's not in the offer letter, but in the
Mhm.
email that we will help you with that, so that when you're doing it, they have something to refer to, right? Because they also sometimes they don't do it intentionally, right? They deal with a
Correct.
lot of candidates. Maybe they just slip, it just maybe that recruiter leaves, right? Somebody else comes. So who knows what you have talked with the recruiter? So it's better to document it. Have it documented somewhere.
Correct. Sometimes I have seen folks talking about we have given you a joining bonus. Please consider that as in your buyback sort of thing. So it's better you explicitly ask to
Ex-
have a
correct,
documented stuff.
correct.
That
Because joining bonus is a perk. So why would you miss that?
definitely that makes sense.